The first thing Commander Jake Morrison noticed about the alien ships was how they seemed to glow. 3 massive vessels hung in space just outside Earth's defense grid, their crystal surfaces pulsing with soft blue light. They looked nothing like the warships humans had grown used to seeing. These ships seemed more like floating cathedrals made of living glass. Jake stood on the bridge of Orbital Station Alpha, watching the strange visitors through the main viewport. Beside him, Dr. Lisa Hamilton pressed her face against the reinforced glass, her breath fogging the surface as she tried to get a better look. "Beautiful," she whispered. "I've never seen anything like them." Jake wasn't thinking about beauty. After 20 years in the Earth Defense Force, he had learned to be suspicious of anything that came from deep space. Too many first contacts had gone wrong. Too many friendly aliens had turned out to be anything but friendly. The communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect English, though it sounded like wind chimes mixed with whale songs. "Greetings, people of Earth. I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. We come seeking your help in our darkest hour." Jake activated the response channel. "This is Commander Morrison of Earth's Defense. State your business." "Face a plague that threatens to destroy our entire civilization. Our greatest scientists cannot stop it. Our most advanced medicine has failed. We have heard of human medical knowledge and wish to trade for your doctors and healing expertise." Dr. Hamilton grabbed Jake's arm. "Did you hear that? They want our medical help. This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for." Jake kept his voice steady. "Kite Ambassador." The alien's response carried what sounded like deep sadness. "It spreads through our worlds like fire through dry grass. People die within days of infection. We have lost entire colonies. Soon, our homeworld itself may fall." Through the translation system, they could hear something that might have been crying. The sound made Dr. Hamilton's eyes water, but it made Jake even more cautious. "What do you offer in return?" Jake asked. "Our technology. Faster than light travel that makes your ships look like toys? Energy systems that could power your entire planet for 1,000 years? We are desperate, Commander. Name your price." 2 hours later, Jake sat in the emergency council meeting aboard the station. Around the metal table sat the most important people in Earth's government and military. Admiral Pete Crawford, a gray-haired man with scars from the Centauri Wars, tapped his fingers nervously on the table's surface. "It smells like a trap," the Admiral said. "They show up with fancy ships, claim they're dying, and offer us technology that's too good to be true. Where have we heard this before?" Senator Rick Martinez, Earth's representative for alien affairs, shook his head. "Not every alien contact has to be hostile, Pete. Maybe they really do need help." "Maybe," said Captain Amy Johnson, leaning back in her chair. "I've been studying their data transmissions. Some things don't add up." Dr. Hamilton looked up from her tablet. "What do you mean?" Amy pulled up a holographic display. "They claim their empire spans hundreds of star systems. They have technology we can barely understand, but they can't stop a disease. Think about it. Any civilization that advanced should have medical science that makes ours look primitive. Unless," said General Frank Collins, "they're not telling us the whole truth about this plague." Jake studied the data Amy had collected. The Zephyrians had provided detailed information about their disease, but something felt wrong about it. The symptoms they described seemed almost too perfect, too designed. Dr. Hamilton stood up, her voice getting louder. "You're all being paranoid? These people are dying, and we're sitting here making up conspiracy theories. If we can help them, we should." Admiral Crawford's eyes narrowed. "Lisa, how many times have we heard these people are dying from aliens who turned out to want something else entirely?" "This is different," she insisted. "How?" asked Amy. "How is this different?" Dr. Hamilton had no answer for that. The debate continued for 3 more hours. Senator Martinez argued that Earth needed to show goodwill to the galactic community. General Collins pointed out that every time they had shown goodwill, it had nearly cost them everything. Dr. Hamilton kept insisting that medical aid was a moral duty, while Amy kept finding problems with the Zephyrian story. Finally, Admiral Crawford stood up. His voice filled the room with quiet authority. "Here's what we know. The Zephyrians have technology far beyond ours. They claim to need medical help we're not even sure we can provide. They're offering us trade deals that seem too good to be real. And they've given us exactly 24 hours to decide. He walked to the viewport, looking out at the glowing alien ships. In my experience, when someone pressures you to make a fast decision about something this big, they don't want you to think too hard about it. Dr. Hamilton started to protest, but Crawford held up his hand. I'm not saying they're lying. I'm saying we need to be smart about this. If they really need doctors, they'll get doctors. They'll get them on our terms, not theirs. 6 hours later, the response went out to the Zephyrian ships. It wasn't the message Dr. Hamilton had hoped for. Instead of medical ships filled with doctors and supplies, Earth's answer came in the form of Admiral Crawford's voice, broadcast on all frequencies. Ambassador Veltar, Earth will provide medical assistance to your people. However, given the serious nature of your situation, we're sending a full support fleet to ensure our medical teams can work safely. Our ships will arrive in your space within 3 weeks. Jake watched the alien ships as they received the message. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the blue glow from their crystal holes began to pulse faster. Acknowledged, Earth Fleet, came Veltar's reply. But something in the alien's tone had changed. The sadness was still there, but now there was something else. Something that might have been anger, as the Zephyrian ships turned away from Earth and disappeared into hyperspace. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they had just avoided a trap. He also couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to walk into a much bigger one. 3 days later, Captain Ben Taylor received his orders. He would command a battle fleet of 52 ships, including 12 heavy cruisers and 40 destroyers. The official mission was medical support and protection. The real mission, Jake suspected, would be something else entirely. Captain Ben Taylor stood on the bridge of the UES Valiant as his fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Zephyrian territory.
Ow.
The journey had taken 3 weeks, and now 52 human warships hung in the darkness of space like a steel constellation. Fleet status report, Ben ordered. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks checked his console. All ships reporting ready, sir. 12 heavy cruisers, 40 destroyers, and support vessels in formation. No contacts yet. Ben nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. Official orders said they were here to provide medical support. The real cargo manifest told a different story. Instead of hospital beds and medical supplies, his ships carried marines, weapons, and enough firepower to level a small moon. Dr. Alex Carter stood near the back of the bridge. Looking uncomfortable in his borrowed military uniform, he was one of only 12 actual doctors in the entire fleet, and he had been asking questions about the mission since they left Earth. Captain, Alex said quietly, when do we contact the Zephyrians about setting up medical facilities? Ben turned to face the doctor. When I decide it's safe, doctor. Until then, we observe and gather intelligence. 3 hours later, the Zephyrian ships appeared. They came not as the small diplomatic vessels that had visited Earth, but as a massive fleet of crystal warships that made space itself seem to glow. Ben counted over 200 vessels, each one larger than his heaviest cruiser. The communication system activated with the familiar wind chime voice of Ambassador. Veltar, human fleet, welcome to Zephyrian space. We're grateful you have come. To help our dying people, please follow our escort ships to the medical facilities. Ben exchanged glances with Ryan. Something in the alien's voice sounded different. Less desperate, more controlled. Acknowledged, Ambassador. But first we need to establish secure communications and review your medical data. Standard protocol for disease containment. There was a long pause before Veltar responded. Of course, Captain, we will transmit all relevant information. Lieutenant Colonel Kate Phillips, commander of the fleet's marine forces, stepped up beside Ben. Sir, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Ben looked at the tactical display she was pointing to. The Zephyrian ships had arranged themselves in what looked like a welcoming formation, but Kate's experienced eye had spotted something else. It's a battle formation, she said quietly. They're trying to surround us. Dr. Carter overheard and moved closer. That's impossible. They asked for medical help. Why would they want to fight us? Before anyone could answer, Lieutenant Sarah Foster from Intelligence approached with a data pad. Captain, We've been analyzing the medical information they sent. There are some serious problems with their story. Ben took the pad and read the report. His expression grew darker with each line. What kind of problems? Alex asked. Sarah looked nervous. The plague they described doesn't match any known biological agent. The symptoms are too specific, too targeted. It looks less like a natural disease and more like ... like what? Ben demanded. Like a weapon, sir. A biological weapon designed to kill very specific genetic types. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's systems. Ben studied the tactical display again, seeing the Zephyrian formation with new eyes. Ryan's console beeped urgently. Captain, I'm detecting energy signatures from the Zephyrian ships. They don't match what they told us about their technology. What do you mean? They claim to be a peaceful empire with advanced medical technology? But these energy readings suggest weapon systems far more sophisticated than anything we've seen before. Ben walked to the main viewport, looking out at the glowing alien fleet. Dr. Carter, you're the medical expert. Is it possible for a civilization this advanced to be helpless against a plague? Alex thought for a moment. Theoretically, yes. But only if the disease was specifically designed to target their biology. A natural plague wouldn't be able to overcome their technology level, so either they're lying about their advancement, or they're lying about the plague being natural, Ben concluded. Kate Phillips checked her weapon systems. Sir, recommend we maintain distance and request more detailed scans of their medical facilities before proceeding. Agreed. Brooks. Signal. The fleet to maintain current positions. Foster, I want detailed analysis of everything they've sent us. The Zephyrian response came quickly, and this time there was no mistaking the change in tone. Human fleet, why do you delay? Our people die while you waste time with procedures? Please proceed to the coordinates we have provided. Been activated. The Fleet Communication Channel. Ambassador Veltar, we appreciate your urgency, but we must follow quarantine protocols. Any disease capable of threatening your civilization could also threaten ours. Another long pause. When Veltar spoke again, his voice carried an edge that hadn't been there before. Captain Taylor, we did not invite your warships to play politics. We invited doctors to save lives. And we brought doctors, Ben replied, along with the support they need to work safely. Over the next several hours, the situation continued to deteriorate. The Zephyrians became increasingly insistent that the human fleet approach their homeworld immediately. Ben became increasingly certain that doing so would be a mistake. Sarah Foster's intelligence team worked around the clock, analyzing every piece of data the aliens had provided. What they found painted a disturbing picture. Captain Sarah reported, during the evening briefing, we found evidence that this plague has appeared on at least 12 different worlds over the past 50 years. Each time it targeted the dominant species and cleared entire planets for colonization. Dr. Carter looks sick. You're saying they've been using this disease as a weapon? It's exactly what I'm saying. And based on the genetic markers they've been asking about in their medical requests, I think they're trying to develop a version that will work on humans. Major Chris Sullivan, the fleet's tactical specialist, pulled up star charts on the main display. Oh, sir, there's something else. Those medical research stations they want us to visit? They're positioned at strategic points throughout this system. If they're really medical facilities, they're placed like weapons platforms. Ben studied the display. The stations formed a perfect grid that could control all traffic in and out of the system. It was exactly how he would position defensive systems. If he wanted to trap an enemy fleet, they don't want doctors, he said finally. They want test subjects. Kate Phillips stood up. Sir, recommend we withdraw to a safe distance and reassess the situation. But before Ben could give the order, Ryan's console erupted in alarms. Captain, detecting massive energy buildup from the Zephyrian fleet, they're powering weapons. Ben looked out at the crystal ships, their glow now pulsing with angry red light instead of peaceful blue. So much for medical assistance, he said. Grimly, all ships battle stations. Looks like we're going to find out what kind of doctors the Zephyrians really need. The alien fleet began to move, and Ben realized that Admiral Crawford had been right to send warships instead of hospital vessels. The Zephyrians hadn't been looking for healers. They had been looking for victims. The first Zephyrian weapons struck the UES Valiant's shields like lightning made of crystal. Captain Ben Taylor gripped his command chair as the ship shook under the impact. "Return fire," he ordered. "All ships, engage at will." The space around. The human fleet erupted in explosions of light and energy. Zephyrian crystal ships fired beams that looked like rainbow death, while human railguns answered with streams of metal that tore through alien holes. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks worked frantically at his station. "Captain, their weapons are more powerful than our intelligence predicted. But their ship designs have a major weakness." "What weakness?" Ben shouted over another impact. "They built their ships like crystals. Beautiful, but brittle. Our kinetic weapons are shattering them." Dr. Alex Carter stood pressed against the wall, watching the battle through the viewport with horror and fascination. He had never seen space combat before, and the deadly beauty of it left him speechless. Lieutenant Colonel Kate Phillips spoke into her communication headset. "Marine units, prepare for boarding actions. Intelligence suggests the aliens have research facilities we need to capture." On the tactical display, Ben could see the battle spreading across the entire system. His destroyers, commanded by Captain Nicole Webb and Commander Gary Price, had broken away from the main formation to attack what the aliens claimed were medical stations. "Brooks, get me Webb on the line," Ben ordered. Captain Webb's voice crackled through the speakers, barely audible over weapon fire. "Taylor, these aren't medical stations, they're weapons labs. We're reading massive biological containment systems and genetic research equipment." "Any sign of actual patients or plague victims?" Ben asked. "Negative, sir. Just laboratories and weapon storage. Lots of weapon storage." Dr. Carter moved closer to Ben's chair. "Captain, if those are research facilities, they might have samples of the biological weapons. We need to secure them before the aliens can destroy the evidence." Ben nodded. "Phillips, prep your Marines for assault missions. We're going in." Lieutenant Commander Bob Stevens led the first boarding party toward the largest research station. His assault ship, protected by 2 destroyers, dodged through the debris of shattered crystal vessels as Zephyrian fighters tried to intercept them. Dr. Carter had insisted on joining the boarding party, despite Ben's objections. Now he floated in zero gravity beside the Marines, wearing borrowed combat armor that didn't quite fit. 30 seconds to docking, Stevens announced. The research station loomed ahead of them, a massive structure that looked like a crystal cathedral, floating in space. Its surface pulsed with the same blue light as the Zephyrian ships. But now that light seemed sinister rather than beautiful. The assault ship slammed into the station's docking bay with a crash that rattled everyone's teeth. Stevens kicked open the airlock and led his Marines into the alien facility. The interior of the station was unlike anything the humans had seen. Corridors twisted and curved like the inside of a living organism. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with life, covered in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Stay together," Stevens ordered. "Carter, where would they keep biological samples?" Alex consulted his scanner. "The energy readings suggest a large laboratory complex about 200 meters that way." He pointed down a corridor that glowed. With soft green light, as they moved deeper into the station, they began to find evidence of the Zephyrians' true purpose. Holding cells lined the corridors, each one designed for a different species. Most were empty, but some contained the remains of creatures the humans didn't recognize. Marine Sergeant Julie Kim kicked open a door and immediately stepped back in shock. "Doc, you need to see this." Alex entered the room and found himself staring at a collection of biological samples preserved in crystal containers. But these weren't samples of the plague the aliens had described. These were genetic materials from dozens of different species. "Captain Stevens," Alex called into his radio. "I'm looking at what appears to be a genetic weapons laboratory. They have biological materials from species I don't recognize." Stevens joined him in the room. "What kind of materials?" Alex studied the alien markings on the containers. DNA samples, tissue cultures, and what looks like completed biological weapons. Each one appears to be designed to target a specific species. Julie Kim opened another container and found data crystals filled with information. When she plugged one into her scanner, The translation system began displaying horrifying details. "Sir," she said quietly, "this isn't just about biological weapons. This is about genocide." The data showed the complete destruction of 12 different civilizations over the past 50 years. Each time, the Zephyrians had approached their victims, claiming to need medical help. Each time, they had used the opportunity to collect genetic samples. Each time, they had then released biological weapons that killed entire species and left their worlds. Empty for Zephyrian colonization, Alex felt. Sick as he read the reports. "Stevens, we need to get this information back to the fleet. The plague they described isn't killing Zephyrians. It's designed to kill everyone else." But before Stevens could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The Zephyrians had discovered the human intrusion and were flooding the facility with some kind of gas. "Gas masks, now?" Stevens shouted. The Marines quickly sealed their helmets, but Alex's borrowed equipment wasn't working properly. He could feel the alien gas burning his lungs as he struggled with the faulty mask. "Julie?" Kim grabbed Alex and helped him seal his helmet properly. "Doc, you okay?" Alex coughed but nodded. "I think so, but we need to get out of here. That gas might be one of their biological weapons." As they fought their way back toward their ship, the station began to shake violently. The Zephyrians were trying to self-destruct the facility rather than let the humans escape with evidence of their crimes. Stevens led his team through collapsing corridors as the crystal walls began to crack and shatter around them. Behind them, they could hear the sound of approaching Zephyrian soldiers. "Move faster," Stevens ordered. "This whole place is coming apart." They reached their assault ship just as the docking bay began to depressurize. Stevens gunned the engines and pulled away from the station as it exploded in a shower of crystal fragments. Back on the Valiant, Ben received Stevens' report with grim satisfaction. The evidence was clear now. The Zephyrians weren't victims of a plague. They were plague makers, using biological weapons to commit genocide on a galactic scale. Dr. Carter, still coughing from his exposure to the alien gas, worked frantically in the ship's medical bay. "Captain, I've analyzed the gas they used on us. It's a prototype biological weapon designed to target human genetic markers." "You mean they were already working on something to kill us?" Ben asked. "Exactly. They probably collected human genetic samples from our first contact and have been developing a plague specifically for Earth." Ben activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, this is Captain Taylor. The Zephyrians are not plague victims. They are plague makers. We are now engaged in a war to prevent genocide on a galactic scale." The battle raged for 6 more hours. Human ships darted between the larger Zephyrian vessels like sharks attacking whales. The aliens had superior technology, but humanity had something the Zephyrians didn't expect: the willingness to fight like cornered animals, Commander. Gary Price's destroyer group managed to capture 2 more research stations. Finding evidence of biological weapons targeting dozens of species, Captain Webb's forces destroyed a Zephyrian flagship that was carrying completed plague weapons, ready for deployment, as the alien fleet began to retreat toward their homeworld. Ben realized this battle was only the beginning. The Zephyrians had been planning galactic genocide for decades. Stopping them would require more than winning one battle. It would require curing the galaxy of the Zephyrian disease once and for all. The Zephyrian homeworld hung before the human fleet like a giant blue pearl surrounded by the wreckage of 1,000 battles. Captain Ben Taylor stood on the bridge of the EU's Valiant, watching as Admiral Helen Rogers' reinforcement fleet dropped out of hyperspace behind them. "Admiral on deck," Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks announced as Rogers materialized on the main screen. "Captain Taylor," Rogers said, her voice cutting through the static. "Earth Command has reviewed your reports. The Security Council has authorized full military action to end the Zephyrian threat permanently." Ben nodded grimly. "Understood, Admiral. What are our orders?" "Capture their leadership alive if possible. Destroy their biological weapons capability completely. And make sure this never happens again." In the medical bay, Dr. Alex Carter worked frantically over a sample of Zephyrian genetic material they had recovered from the research stations. His exposure to the alien gas during the boarding action had given him unexpected insight into how their biological weapons worked. Captain Alex called over the communication system. "I think I've found something important." Ben hurried to the medical bay, where Alex stood over a complex array of scientific equipment that looked more like torture devices than medical tools. "What did you find, Doc?" Alex pointed to a display showing Zephyrian DNA structures. "Hey there. Biological weapons are incredibly sophisticated, but they have a fatal flaw. The Zephyrians designed them to be species-specific, but they never considered what would happen if someone turned the weapons against them." "What do you mean?" "I can modify their own plague to target Zephyrian genetics. Their immune systems have no defense against it because they never thought they would need one." Ben studied the data on the screen. "You're talking about genocide, Doctor?" Alex's expression was troubled. "I know. Captain, they've already committed genocide against 12 species. How many more will die if we don't stop them?" Before Ben could respond, the ship's alarms began blaring. The Zephyrian Grand Fleet had appeared around their homeworld. Thousands of crystal ships forming defensive formations that stretched across space like a glowing spiderweb. "All hands, battle stations," Ben announced over the ship's communication system. "This is it." Lieutenant Colonel Kate Phillips assembled her Marines in the main hangar bay. "Listen up, people. Intelligence says the Zephyrian command structure is located in a massive crystal complex on the planet's surface. Our job is to get in there and capture their leaders before they can release any more biological weapons." Marine Sergeant Julie Kim checked her equipment one final time. "Colonel, what about civilian populations?" Kate's expression was hard. "Intelligence suggests there are no civilians. The Zephyrians appear to be a completely militarized society. Everyone on that planet is part of their war machine." The final battle began when Commander Gary Price's destroyer group engaged the outer defense ring. The Zephyrian ships swarmed toward the human fleet like angry insects, their crystal hulls blazing with weapon fire. But this time the humans were ready. Admiral Rogers had brought not just warships, but specialized medical vessels equipped with Dr. Carter's modified biological weapons. "Deploy the medical packages," Rogers ordered, across the fleet. Human ships began releasing clouds of microscopic particles designed to target Zephyrian biology. The effect was immediate and devastating. Zephyrian ships began to slow as their crews fell victim to their own weaponized medicine. Ambassador Veltar's voice crackled across all communication channels. No longer musical, but harsh with desperation. "Human fleet, you don't understand what you're doing. Stop this madness." Ben activated the fleet communication system. "Ambassador, we understand perfectly. You've been using biological weapons to commit genocide for 50 years. Today, that ends. We only sought to expand our territory. Other species were inferior, meant to be replaced by superior Zephyrian civilization. And that," Ben replied, "is exactly why you need to be stopped." The battle for the homeworld lasted 18 hours. Human ships fought through wave after wave of Zephyrian defenders, using the aliens' own biological weapons against them. Captain Nicole Webb's forces cleared the orbital defense platforms while Commander Ryan Brooks coordinated the planetary assault. Kate Phillips led the ground invasion. Personally, her Marines dropping through the planet's atmosphere in armored shuttles. The Zephyrian capital city was a marvel of crystal architecture, but it was also a fortress designed to withstand any attack. "Move fast," Kate ordered her troops. "Intelligence says they're trying to activate some kind of doomsday weapon." Marines fought through streets made of living crystal, facing Zephyrian soldiers who fought with the desperation of a species facing extinction. But human determination and superior tactics slowly pushed the aliens back toward their command center. Dr. Carter accompanied the assault force, carrying equipment to neutralize any biological weapons they might encounter as they approached the central spire that housed the Zephyrian leadership. He detected massive concentrations of biological agents. "Colonel Phillips," he called over his radio, "they've got enough plague material in there to sterilize half the galaxy. Can you neutralize it? Give me 5 minutes with their control systems and I can turn their own weapons against them." The final assault on the command spire was brutal and swift. Sergeant Julie Kim led the breach team through crystal walls that shattered like glass under human explosives. Inside, they found Ambassador Veltar and the Zephyrian High Council desperately trying to activate their biological weapons. "Stop," Veltar commanded in his wind chime voice. "You cannot destroy us. We're the future of this galaxy." Kate Phillips raised her weapon. "You're the past ambassador, a diseased past that needs to be cured." Dr. Carter worked quickly at the alien control systems, his medical knowledge allowing him to understand their biological weapons in ways the Zephyrians had never anticipated. Within minutes, he had reprogrammed their entire arsenal. "It's done," he announced. "Their weapons will now target only Zephyrian genetics, and I've programmed them to self-destruct in 72 hours so they can't be used again." Veltar's bioluminescent form flickered with what might have been fear. "You're making us extinct," No Ben said, appearing in the doorway with Admiral Rogers beside him. "We're making you harmless." There's a difference. Over the following days, human fleet established orbital medical stations around the Zephyrian homeworld. Dr. Carter led teams of actual doctors and scientists in treating the aliens. But this time, the treatment was for their aggressive expansion syndrome rather than any plague. The Sephorian Empire became the first alien civilization to undergo mandatory medical rehabilitation under human supervision. Their biological weapons programs were completely dismantled, their expansionist government replaced with a medical oversight board run jointly by humans and reformed Zephyrians. Months later, Ambassador Veltar, now serving as a rehabilitation coordinator, met with Captain Taylor in one of the orbital medical facilities. "Your species has taught us something we never understood," Veltar said, his voice carrying a humility that had never been there before. "What's that?" "Sometimes the best cure for aggression is to show the aggressor what it feels like to be helpless. We asked for doctors, and you sent warships. But those warships carried the greatest healers of all." Ben looked out at the crystal ships now being converted into actual medical vessels. "What do you mean, warriors?" Who understood that sometimes? "The most effective medicine is preventing the disease from spreading in the first place." The Zephyrian rehabilitation program became a model for dealing with aggressive alien species throughout the galaxy. Other civilizations learned that when you asked Earth for doctors, you might get warships instead. But those warships would cure you of the one disease that threatened all intelligent life, the belief that might makes right. Years later, the galaxy was a safer place because humanity had taught everyone that true healing sometimes required a strong dose of preventive medicine. The Zephyrians, once the galaxy's greatest threat, became its most vocal advocates for peaceful expansion and interspecies cooperation. And when new alien species asked Earth for help, they learned to be very specific about what kind of help they actually needed.